So yes, this is part 2 of our professional practice and social policy recording just after we finished watching the video.
So Shane, look, well done again. So part of this kind of discussion is like the critical kind of dialogue as well with you. And again, me and Evan really liked the video in terms of the metaphors, the reflections. You reflected really well. This process now is to ask questions, to draw out like some of the things maybe you didn't really, go into. Like there's a lot of stuff that was implicit in your presentation rather than explicit, like to the fore. So we're trying just to draw out something so you're selling yourself well. Ultimately, I think many of you know some of your practice and want to hear and accentuate the positive, so to speak. So were you going to get the ball rolling, Evan?
Yeah. So the first question I want to ask you is if you could maybe share some specifics on some of the rewarding experiences you've had over the last 3 years of your practice, and maybe some specifics of some challenges you've had and how you've maybe come through them.
Yes, absolutely. So to start with some rewarding experiences, to start with the positive, there is an absolute fountain to be picking from here where it's very difficult to select a few, but if I had to start, it would be through my studying, going into actual youth work jobs and being able to move into doing this on a more permanent focused basis rather than like working just or volunteering even in a lot of cases, just and having to continue working in part-time jobs alongside that. So for example, back in, I would have started this course in 2018, 2019, sometime around then, being able to take on my first paid youth work position because I was studying for this, I was able to use the development from this course to really apply myself and really show myself what I can do. So that was a major positive for me. Being a placement student on the Transform program has also then been a major positive, in which I was able to develop through there to the point where I was able to become a full-time staff member temporarily while the program was still in place. I think one very specific example has to be whenever I'm able to use my youth work theory and recognize myself doing so in my practice. Conflict resolution, transformation, and management has been a major part of my focus, especially in third year here, where I found myself able to identify conflicts in young people and occasionally in staff members and use the theory behind that to show that I have actually learned something, to show that I am taking this theoretical knowledge and I'm able to apply it more directly to my work. So we had in my current job an issue with young people fighting every week, like physically fighting. And what I was able to do was sit down and like use that as like understanding more like what their lives were like outside the center, why they felt the need to do that, like, and really work with them. And since then we have seen really positive change. I suppose the main positive that I do see, and like the main benefit that I do see of me having done this course, is the ability to identify the positive change like my work can have in young people through my theoretical knowledge. Some challenges that have come up along the way have been things like workload, motivation. Learning to say no was a massive one for me. Where if I was asked to do something or asked to take on more responsibility, it was always a yes. It was always a yes. And what that led to was a large pile up of stress where I couldn't do everything. It led to certain aspects of my work falling behind because I had to focus on a different aspect and I just could not possibly juggle everything. And so I think that is my biggest identifiable challenge that I faced, is that workload led to times where I just wanted to quit it all, where I thought to myself, I can't do this isn't sustainable. And it took me sitting back and recognizing that and allowing myself the space to have downtime, as I mentioned in the video, and to take care of myself first. That learning process itself was probably the largest challenge I have faced in my youth work journey.
Great, thank you, Shane.
Can I push you a wee tiny bit further about the youth work experience? Like, what's been the most rewarding encounter you've had with a young person when you were like, you know, I nailed it there, I was awesome, that was great, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. So
young person or a group of young people?
yeah, I'll actually bring it back to the fight in the current place that I was talking about, because I really did feel quite proud of how that went. So just for context, this is a young person who the rest of the centre staff kind of just wouldn't really address this with, because it is just expected behaviour, where if they're getting into a physical fight, it's okay, centre policy, you're out for a night, come back the following session, and it's like it never happened and it doesn't get resolved. I was quite new to the organization at the time, and so it was seen as quite odd that I would step in and actually try and do some conflict resolution with these young people who were fighting. So the way I went about it was just individually sitting them down. I chatted initially about, you know, what exactly happened to get the facts, then about why it happened, how could it go differently, how would they expect me as a youth worker to handle it if I was in their shoes, and then how can I support them further, and how can the centre support them further if it was to come up again. And what that actually led to was the young people themselves, rather than me telling them how to resolve this issue, they told me how they would like it resolved and how they feel like they could do better to resolve the issue. So one thing we come up with one of them is, if they felt themselves getting hot-headed, they would have some sort of stress toy. So what that led me to was actually buying a couple of stress toys and having them in the centre. So these young people actually still to this day now, if they feel themselves getting hated, if they're in the sports hall or if they're in our social area having a game of pool, if they found they're getting frustrated and they feel that they're getting angry, they now know to take themselves off and actually work on that. And I just felt that, like, my ability to approach that situation and the success that it's seen really highlighted for me, like, that I did know what I was doing, that I was able to make a difference, and that difference has stayed to this day, where these people are not, now they are still having issues, but nowhere near as many as they would have whenever I first joined.
That's good.
And
Don't
like
you
that,
think?
yeah, that does just come from that continuous development and continually working with young people and applying the theory that I've learned.
No, it's really helpful just for us to hear, you know, the color of it adds color to the kind of the words when we hear them experiences. As well, though, what would be really helpful, Shane, is to kind of, you know, something that I didn't hear a lot of in the presentation. I know this module's about practice and social policy, was like, what's the social political aspect of your work? Like, what are the social issues that, like, you just want to make a difference in? Like, you've alluded to T-book, but not went deeper into the policies that are relevant to youth work, but also the social issues that are kind of relevant to youth work.
Yeah, absolutely. So the area I'm working in right now is the Lower Omer Road in Belfast. So it is an area of high deprivation when it comes to crime and disorder. It's ranked 8th in Northern Ireland for the most deprived area with regard to that statistic. And so that's one of the major things I want to help work with, as well as the lower standard of living that a lot of our young people end up seeing. The young people who are out in the streets are not safe in the area. There's very little to do except go and drink down by the walkway, or get involved in some sort of gang violence or some sort of disruptive behavior, and that is something I really want to work with. There's a nature in the area of distrusting the police, is something we find, as young people believe that they're unfairly treated in the area. And so as youth workers, we are a trusted people in the community. We are there for the young people. We're there to make sure that they are safe, to ensure their development. So one thing we've been doing is just outreach work every weekend, is walking around the area. We bring water with us. We walk down, we approach groups of young people. We just check that everyone's okay. They recognize us coming. They're actually become quite welcoming to seeing the youth workers coming down to the area. And understanding like we're not here to get them in trouble, we're here to support them. I think that like through the deprivation in the area, there's as well culture of not having a lot to actually do. Young people don't get to have hobbies, they don't get to go out, there's not a lot of provision. And so through youth work, we're able to take them away on trips, we're able to give them that like little quality of like these experiences they might not get any other time. And so that's kind of what I really want to do in my job at the minute, is to just provide for these young people what I can see people in areas of higher income being provided with. Yesterday, for example, we took them down to Tato Park. Now, we were able to, thankfully, because of the TBUP fund and stuff that I had applied for, use that to not have to charge them for that, a trip which realistically they may not have gotten otherwise because of transport costs, because of ticket costs, because minimum wage jobs that a lot of parents are working in the area do not pay enough. The young people end up not having experiences because of things like that. And so youth work provision in the area is absolutely invaluable to having them be able to have these experiences, to be young people who are able to grow up and think like, oh yeah, do you remember whenever I was with St. John's and we went to Tato Park, or whenever we went down just to like Portrush for the day and we just kind of spent the day together. It's to give them these experiences despite the disadvantages they're getting in the area.
Thank you. They got, again, that just added really good colour and give me a sense of your understanding of social policy. Last thing I'm going to ask before pass back to Yabin was around the sense of like theoretical models. Like if I was to ask you, like what is the theory from youth work that stood with you, that's ingrained in your practice? And maybe like I know the chats I've had with you at the start of year one about the whole theological thing, like how does that all sit with you, the challenges of theology? So maybe what's thinking of it as clothing or equipment for the gym, like what are the theories you put on or take off when you're going to do your work?
Yeah, you know what, as cliche as it is, one that I have found stuck with me, especially in my current role, which has been challenging times, is unconditional positive regard. And it feels like such a cop out to say, but you know what, it is cliched for a reason. Young people can be challenging and they can push buttons and they can have you pulling your hair out sometimes, but to have that unconditional positive regard and understand these are people, they are important, they deserve my love, my care unconditionally, no matter what, no matter who they are, no matter where they're from, no matter how they acted yesterday, you know, to never treat them without respect and without love. An example of that is one of the young people who's actually on one of my TBAC programs. He is being sent out of the centre quite a bit. He is disruptive. He is getting himself into bother both in and out of the centre. On what night was it? It was Monday night. He was one of the only ones left in the centre as we had quite a quiet night, and he just came into the sports hall and asked if I wanted to play some games of football with him. So we just played while we spoke. A lot of what I would have done at the start of my work journey, if we went back to whenever I was first starting to volunteer, if I had a young person like that who was constantly pushing my buttons, who was constantly causing bother, who was making my job realistically more difficult on a weekly basis, it would have been very difficult for me to look and see, is this someone I can realistically put a lot aside with and intentionally have conversations with, just generally like showing unconditional positive regard. And I found that the development and like theoretical understanding has really allowed me to do that. As well, I'm quite interested in the theory behind management and people management. It's something I've like tried to help within my current practice as well, through like staff training and leading that, is the development of the other youth workers as well, to have a fully fledged team I mentioned it in the video, but the Kobe 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and just trying to approach any task with as much preparation and as much of the correct mindset and ability as possible has been huge, rather than just trying to throw myself at a wall and hope I stick. To actually take that preparation is one thing. With regards to theology, I feel like that's something I've really improved in as well recently, and that like I've strengthened the relationship with God, and I'm not just praying when things are hard. I'm trying to practice my daily prayer, my daily meditation, and to really have that relationship. And what that's ended up doing actually has increased my confidence in going into things and knowing that like no matter how difficult things may get, I am not alone. I have got support everywhere I go through that relationship with God. And like back in first year, whenever we were having those conversations, like that wasn't really something I always felt. I didn't always feel like that relationship was there. It wasn't something I had maintained. But through working and maintaining that and studying the Bible at a deeper level than I ever had before, I have really, really felt an improvement in that area.
Thank you, Shane.
And then I suppose maybe this is the last question is just to get a better sense of where you're going now that you're finishing up this course, and professionally, what skills do you think you maybe need to still develop in the future?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that learning and development never end. So one thing is still to take down time to manage my time better, to allow myself to just sit back and rest. For an example, at the minute, we're running a summer scheme, and well, clearly judging by the fact that we're having a meeting at 8 a.m. on a Friday, I could do with being able to manage my time better and take time, set it aside to have free time, to have downtime, to have time where I can organize things if I want, rather than being up until 2 a.m. because that's the downtime, having to sacrifice sleep for downtime, which is never ideal. That's one of the main areas that I want to improve in. With regards to my actual youth work practice, I would like to improve in like, I guess, my general engagement with all young people. I feel that like there are certain groups and certain, so for example, in my current center, the older senior boys, like, or 16-year-olds, I kind of am struggling at the minute to like exactly connect. And I felt like that happened in my last job as well. That's not to say there haven't been development, because as well in my last job, the younger junior girls were a group that I very rarely was able to connect with, and I've really, really worked on that. And I feel like that has significantly improved in this current position. But just, I guess, working on being more all-rounded as a youth worker and just trying to sharpen those edges and like really focus on like how can I engage with all these groups in as far away as possible, because the last thing I would want is for these older senior boys to think Shane's got no time for us. Like, Shane's here for the other groups, he's not here for us, because I want people to feel like they can come to me. Like at the end of the day, that is why I'm there. I'm there for them. This is not for me. And so allowing myself to intentionally strengthen relationships with all groups would be a major area of development that I want to continue to focus on. And I'm aware that I can do it as well, because it's something I have done with other groups in the past. I think of just one more even. I suppose my record keeping as well, just from an admin point of view, would be an area I could improve on. One thing I'm trying to do at the minute is less loose pages and have things more digitally stored with backups on drives, so I can access it from anywhere. So I'm not relying on having my laptop with me all the time. I could maybe pull it on my phone if I needed to. Is just keeping those records, and essentially what that would allow me to do as well is develop, because I would be able to look back on these older records rather than losing things, and allow myself to see how I can improve on certain areas. And I think that's one that can be often overlooked as being extremely important.
And then Shane, just to get a sense of like following following a degree, what do you kind of see for yourself in the future as a youth worker?
Okay, yes. Shouldn't have had this meeting so early in the morning to be answering questions like this. I would like at the minute to still work at the ground level and to really just engage more with young people in any area. I suppose if we're thinking like further in the future, looking towards things like centre management would be a good place to go from here. I do still have interest in the social work sector at some point, if I wasn't to stick with youth work for my entire life, which is entirely possible. I think at the minute, just using the theoretical knowledge that I have been able to gain and just really fine tuning my practice and being directly there at ground level for young people in the community is where I see myself going post degree as well.
Brilliant.
Yep, Shane, well done. And that, like, again, you can see how, I know we talk about this as the assessed academic dialogue. I know your presentation was a wee bit longer than your video was a wee bit longer, but definitely the questions asked by Aoibhinn and myself have added colour to your presentation. It helps us to see your knowledge in such a better light. But look, you can press record stop now.